Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the KPC podcast. My name is Karsan Turner.
And I'm Hannah Thurman.
And today we have just a couple of stories. We're going to talk about Kanye West. He's been in the news lately. The final, well, not exactly the final case from Count Dankula and his Nazi pug salute, as well as a couple other things. But Hannah's going to start us off. So what do you have for us, Hannah?
All right. Well, the first story that I'll be talking about is the situation with Ronnie Jackson, who was nominated by President Trump in March to head the Veterans Affairs Committee, which is the second largest group of people that can be controlled throughout the White House. Mm-hmm. And he has been surrounded in allegations lately, and they have increased in new numbers. And this morning, he has withdrawn his nomination, and the White House the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs canceled their hearing that they were supposed to have yesterday. And today, the news broke that he will not be a nominee anymore. And so these allegations include drinking on the job, handing out prescriptions that he shouldn't have been handing out too many prescriptions. There was an incident that I read through the New York Times. Granted, this was someone that they weren't giving a name from and that they couldn't find actual evidence of this through reports, but it was in the story, which I was surprised by. But there was a potential incident of him giving himself prescriptions, and then when he would get caught, he would just tell the nurse to just give it to him anyway. It was like he kind of figured he was above everything. So Jackson has denied all these claims. He said they're untrue, and he released a statement, which I will read. He said, "Unfortunately, because of how Washington works, these false allegations have become a distraction for this president and the important issues we must be addressing. How we give the best care to our nation's heroes." However, President Trump has stood behind Jackson throughout this, and Trump is now blaming Senator Jon Tester of Montana, who is the top Democrat on the Senate Committee on Veterans Affairs. Trump said that Tester will have a quote-unquote big price to pay for undercutting Dr. Jackson. And President Trump also said, and I watched what Jon Tester of Montana, a state that I won by like over 20 points. They love me and I love them. And I want to tell you, Jon Tester, I think this is going to cause him a lot of problems in his state. He took a man who is an incredible man and smeared him. Wow, that is the first time I fully read that quote, and there's just so much wrong with it.
Yeah,
I think this is going to cause him. Okay, wait. And I want to tell you, Jon Tester, he's addressing Jon Tester, that I think this is going to cause him a lot of problems in his state. Just completely goes, okay. Side note, got sidetracked on that one because it was kind of painful to read. But so Trump, after, we were talking about this earlier because Trump is known to contradict himself.
Yeah.
And so he had said a couple days ago after these allegations that, and before he was scheduled, or Jackson was scheduled to go in front of the Senate committee for a hearing, he tweeted out, if I was him, I wouldn't go through with it. I wouldn't want to put a man through that, blah, blah, blah. Basically saying that Jackson should withdraw his nomination or take himself out of the position, which he did. But now Trump is attacking the people of the committee that are basically doing what he was saying.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. The White House hasn't announced another nominee, so we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, Jackson has been in the White House since 2013. He's been a White House physician. So right after Obama's first term, he's been there since then, and he's also served as a combat surgeon. So he's been overseas, he's been in the White House, but it's new allegations, I guess, now that he could have been in a potentially very large position. So
wow, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I'm interested to see who the next nominee is going to be.
Yeah, for sure.
I know that the guy before him got fired by Trump. I don't remember his name or what he did, but we'll see what happens with that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see that episode of The Apprentice, so I can't. Can't tell you who he fired.
Do you think that's how he fires people? No, he usually fires people by tweeting it before they know. I think
foreshadowing.
Right. Yeah, because that's definitely happened a couple times.
Yeah, that would suck to just be going through Twitter and then you're like, oh,
you're like, is that me?
Yeah,
like directed towards me? Is that?
He didn't at me, so I don't know.
But I mean, he says my name.
Yeah.
So.
Speaking of Twitter, Kanye West, everyone's talking about Kanye West because he has been red-pilled, apparently. But he was a Trump supporter back during the election cycle. He didn't vote, but he said he would have voted for Trump. And people are freaking out over this. It all started with one tweet that said, "I love the way Candace Owens thinks." Do you know who Candace Owens is?
No, we do not.
She is I think she's the communications director for Turning Point USA. She is she's an African-American conservative who became famous during this whole online Gamergate scandal. And she tried doing this thing where she had a GoFundMe to do something to get rid of bullying or something, but certain news outlets were like harassing her or something. I don't quite know what happened. I watched a podcast with her in it. But long story short, she was super liberal. People on the very, very far left that we've talked about before, kind of like the Jimmy Kimmel type media, were so awful to her that she instantly flipped and is now, very active in conservative media. And so people were kind of like, oh, what the heck? Is Kanye West conservative? But like, why does it matter? Like, who really cares? But unfortunately, we live today in America. There's not as many famous conservative celebrities. We have like Roseanne Barr, Tim Allen, Kanye West.
There's probably some country singers, I would assume.
Yeah. Taylor Swift, I think, is like, I actually think she's just apolitical, but people assume she's conservative.
Really?
Yeah.
That surprises me.
But,
well, I guess I can't imagine her saying anything on politics.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like most celebrities shouldn't, but I mean, they can. But yeah, there's just a lot that's kind of happened. I know Donald Trump has tweeted saying like, very cool, Kanye, we're Dragon Brothers, because Kanye said that they were Dragon Brothers or something. He's like, we have dragons.
What does that even mean?
I have no idea. They're just really good buddies.
Did you see Kim Kardashian's tweet?
Yeah, saying something. It was like, oh my God,
and then
I don't remember.
I think it was people were responding saying something about his mental health, and that's why he was saying all those things.
That's so crazy. People's reaction is just, I do not believe it, because just because he supports Donald Trump does not mean he has a mental illness. I know a lot of people who support Donald Trump, and while I don't 100% agree with why they're doing it, I don't go, I can't be a friend anymore. I see people on Twitter, they go, well, I guess I can't listen to Kanye West anymore, and it's like, oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Aren't you supposed to be the party that's open-minded? Can you not support?
Yeah, and we were talking about this too, how it's become this stigma thing, I guess, stereotype that if you're Republican, you're racist. If you're not Republican, then you're not.
Yeah.
And you're not. It's Republican, fiscally conservative. They want less government control. And Democrats, and along with other left-wing parties, less government or more government control. They want... and they're really okay with spending money, and that's the root of both parties. And people just need to go back to focusing on that instead of the person that is in office right now, because he is just, in my opinion, I feel like a lot of Republicans don't. They voted for him because he was a Republican nominee. They may not actually support him.
Not to single my dad out, but he told me like, this was way earlier, and I said, are you a Trump fan? And he's like, no, but I mean, if I have to vote for him, I will, but I don't support him.
Yeah, that's...
So, and I think that's the case for a lot of Republicans and Democrats. No,
I've heard that from, my parents aren't Republican, but one of my best friend's parents are, and I had visited her over the summer, or I guess it was before he got
the nominee.
Voted in, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
For the election, but they were like, yeah, I don't like him, but...
Yeah, he's what we got to go with. But even then, the people who are like that versus the people who are like MAGA, 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 I don't even think, if I disagree with them, I'm not going to try to dox them or be like, oh, I didn't know you were a Nazi. And some celebrity tweeted, and I was telling you about this, but I got to say it for the podcast. They tweeted out like, it's been a terrible day on Twitter because Kanye West is kind of conservative. And then Billy Eicher responded. He said, yeah, they've got Chance the Rapper too, which Chance the Rapper just tweeted, black people don't have to be Democrats, which is true. I feel like
100%.
Democrats have been really pushing to try to scoop in the black vote, and then whenever some African Americans are conservative, which is natural, I mean, like you said, at the root of the end of the day, it's more or less government. They were like, oh man, we've lost one. I guess they're
Right.
now dead to them because they have a different political view. Like, how stupid do you have to be
Right.
to end a friendship or to look down upon someone for a political view? And even some of his tweets, Kanye's tweets, he's saying things like, I don't support everything he does. I believe in individual freedom. No one has the same exact thoughts. So I've kind of been, obviously he tweeted this earlier, but that's kind of how I always process things. If someone thinks of the world differently, they have the complete opposite political view, I don't go, oh, it's because they're wrong. It's like,
Right.
oh, they have a unique experience.
Right.
Yeah.
So important to just listen to what people are saying too,
Yeah.
even if you don't want to hear it, because I think politics has just become so petty because people don't want to listen. They immediately are just like, no, you're wrong.
Yep.
That's wrong. That's incorrect. Why would you say that? And I hate that it's that way, because if politics weren't that way, just imagine like the conversations that we could have as like human beings with just other people across
It could
the
be
aisle.
interesting in a
Right.
whole different way.
And
now,
I feel like people would work so much better together.
Yeah.
And like actually want to decide on what would be best instead of just being petty and like not like it's if one conservative flips and votes on a bill that's more Democrat, it's like Trump says something like, why would you do that? And then the rest of them, it's like he's a bad person for voting for the Democrats. And if a Democrat votes on a Republican backed bill, then they're, and it's like he just maybe thinks that it makes sense in his mind. That's not how it. I could go on about that for a fat minute, but
I agree. I've also noticed though, because there's this new kind of centrist right area, like political movement building up, and because I feel like now with this very, very far left stuff, it's like if you disagree with one thing that they all believe, then they ostracize you, they kick you out. And I've seen, I watched a podcast with this guy named Charlie Kirk. I don't know if you know who he is. He runs Turning Point USA. He heard about Candace Owens and hired her. He's like, I need you to be here because you're awesome. But he was talking about conservative events that he hosts, and it's like you have him, a full 100% pro-Trump guy. Then next to him, you have Ben Shapiro, who is a conservative, but he doesn't like Donald Trump at all. And then who's also there, and they're all hanging out, good friends, is like Dave Rubin, a guy who is actually liberal, but he just supports free speech. So it's like you have this really good look of diversity of thought going on, and I feel like we need to have more of that. But other people on this far, celebrities basically just ostracize one another, and it's not good. Not a good thing.
I agree. You know what else isn't good?
What's not good? Teachers.
The situation. Teachers are great.
Education.
No, we support teachers. Well, some people don't support teachers because people are mad about all the teachers walking out, while some support their reasoning and why they're doing it. But I'll just read an excerpt from a CBS article that I found that does a really great job of just kind of summing up what's happening in Arizona right now, and as well as Colorado. But Arizona teachers are walking out today and Friday to the Capitol. So this is the article introduction. A wave of red-clad Arizona teachers were marching toward the state capitol on Thursday for an unprecedented walkout that closed most of the state's public schools, part of an educator uprising that also bubbled up in Colorado. Around 30,000 to 50,000 teachers and their supporters were getting ready to march through Phoenix for a rally at the Arizona State Capitol to demand a 20% raise for teachers, which is about $1 billion to return. About $1 billion to return school funding to pre-Great Recession levels and increased pay for support staff, among other things. So they are asking for. So the governor, Doug Ducey, I think is his name, said that he put out a bill and saying, we'll give you 20% raise over the span of 5 years. And the teachers are saying, no, we want it now. I think in 2008 was what they want the pay that they had in 2008, which is like more than they have now, obviously. But they're getting $11,000 below the national average. They're getting paid about $47,000 right now. And so there's just thousands of teachers walking out. There is, let's see how many school districts. I think it's in here somewhere. Should have written this down. Okay. More than 840,000 students in Arizona are expected to be out of school. So today. And then there's 100 school districts and charter schools that are closing, and the State Department of Education says the state has more than 200 districts and more than 1.1 million school children. So if at least 100 districts are closing because of these walkouts, that's half the districts in the state of Arizona.
Oh my God.
So I think a lot of teachers are getting behind this in Arizona, just like they are in Colorado. Colorado is also marching to the Capitol today. I think Kentucky earlier this week, Oklahoma, West Virginia. So we kind of talked about this earlier, or a couple of weeks ago. You know, do we think this is going to start a movement with West Virginia and Kentucky? Do you think that this is going to spread throughout the states? And I mean, it is. It's definitely happening.
Yeah.
In the video that was connected to the story, they mentioned that the unions in Arizona are super weak. So the districts actually have the power to fire these teachers. But none of the districts have said that yet. But I think since the governor doesn't seem to be willing to budge on that situation, they're expected to be out for at least a week. So if the teachers don't go back in, if the districts are starting to say, you know, we'll fire you if you don't come back, then I think that could cause some issues for them. But we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, because we already discussed kind of the ethics behind all of that. That's interesting to see if they do end up getting fired, because then who's gonna take those jobs?
Right.
Yeah.
And one of the sources that they had was a teacher in this article, and you know, she said basically that she's living paycheck to paycheck, and she was almost looking for other jobs because it didn't make sense financially for her to be a teacher. And then another source that I really liked said that she dropped her children off at a Salvation Army for, I think it's like $25 per child a day. You can have up to 100 kids in the room. They provide breakfast, lunch, and snacks, and they do like arts and crafts and sports and stuff. And you know, I'm assuming a lot of teachers or parents have to do that because they work, and you know, they're used to dropping off their students or their kids at school. But the mom of these kids said that she supports the teachers, even though it's inconvenient for her, but just because they are educating our future, which is true. And I completely agree with her. I think that this is a good thing that's happening, because I've always thought the teachers should get paid more, despite the inconvenience. That's probably a lot for parents. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think that the entire education system needs some reworking. Like, there's just so much wrong with it. I feel like, especially, you know, coming out of high school, I feel like I was not taught how to be useful in college and also the real world once, you know, we get there. But there's just I could go on forever about just how messed up the education system is.
And there's the good teachers in high school and the bad teachers, you know.
But they should all be good teachers.
Exactly. You know? That's why it's like, I'm sure an argument for raising pay is that, well, some teachers just don't do anything and they're so laid back and they don't care. But then you have to think about the teachers that have given so much to the classroom.
Yeah.
Especially the fact that they have to pay out of their pocket for school supplies and like Kleenex boxes in the room and things like that.
Our teacher would just say, your first assignment, it's 10 points, bring a box of Kleenex. So we all bring them and stock them for
in
the
elementary
year.
school, I always remembered, like, okay, like, bring this for extra credit. And then I think in high school, they're like, you can't do that anymore. It's like, okay, I needed that extra credit, though.
Could have used that.
Yeah.
So I don't have a clever segue for this next story. So speaking of a couple weeks ago, we talked about the self-described YouTuber. He says he's a shit poster. His YouTube name is Count Dankula, and this was in 2016. He got a pug. His girlfriend got a pug, and she said that it's the cutest and most innocent dog in the entire world. So he thought it would be funny if he taught the cutest and most innocent thing in the world to do the most inhumane and evil thing in the world, which is to do a Nazi salute. So he made a video of teaching his pug how to do a Nazi salute, and he got arrested by the British people over in Scotland. I think that's where he's from. Today, they finally concluded the sentence. He is fined for £800, which is roughly $1,200 US. But the problem is that Count Dankula said he is not going to pay for that, and started a GoFundMe to appeal this case. And he set a goal of £100,000, which it's now at like $140,000 100,000 pounds right now. So
Sorry, I'm watching the video.
Oh, yeah. He could have gone to jail for that. They almost sent him to jail over a video.
Okay, what is he? Okay, I'm gonna listen to it.
Yeah, go for it.
Because I don't know what he's. Okay, just kidding.
It's one of those.
But he just looks like, you know, when you're petting a dog and then you stop.
Yeah,
and it paws at you, and you're like, "Give me more attention." That's
what it looks
without
like.
the context. That's what I would have thought. That he
well,
was
with
doing.
audio,
it's a
he
pug
says
too. He's so cute.
With audio, he says like be a good boy, Zeke Heil or something like that.
That's the part that makes it bad.
Yeah, but
with the context and him saying that.
I don't think he should go to jail.
I don't think so either.
I think it's very dangerous once you start policing any form of speech. Any form of speech that's put into a legislation is awful because it starts out with good intentions. Maybe they say, oh, we're going to look after these neo-Nazis. But then this happens. This is one of the first cases since Britain started policing speech. They get a comedian who taught his dog to do a Nazi salute. What's he going to do? Like start a Nazi pug army? It's just such a waste of time. And I've heard that other crimes like child rape has increased over there, but the police are too worried about people saying mean things online. They don't have time to focus on actual crime that's going on. So it looks like they are just eating themselves alive, and hopefully they can get this together and not police free speech.
The only thing that I can think of that would make them so intense on this is that I think a lot of Europe around Germany is like they do not have a tolerance for this.
That's true.
Anything regarding the Holocaust. And so maybe because if that happened in America, no one's gonna turn a blind eye. Someone's gonna be like, "Ooh, get this," and then it's gonna be like, I don't think it would ever make headline news.
Yeah.
But perhaps since it's so different over there and they do have that no tolerance.
That does make sense.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I would think of. But I still like from our point of view, it's like
it's still like I don't know.
It's a pug. Like,
yeah.
I think the pug knew what he was doing. The pug doesn't know what it means.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I was going to say something, but I just completely forgot what I was going to say. But
love it when that happens.
That's all the time we have for today's episode. Are there any last things you want to say or?
No, I don't think I got it all.
All right. So join us on Monday. That'll be our kind of last news podcast for this section. I don't want to say season. It's not a TV show, but we'll be taking maybe about a month break or for the whole summer, and then we'll do a final episode, which would be that following Friday. We're going to do something cool. I don't know what we're going to do yet, but you are going to want to make sure you stay tuned for that. So without further ado, I'm Karsan Turner.
And I'm Hannah Thurman.
Thank you for listening to the KPC podcast.